Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Yeshiva YouTube Table Enabled. I was not able to secure another room, so we're going to be doing it in the base medrash over here for my large amount of fans listening in. Let's start. Reish Daled, Simon Reish Daled today. 204. A lot of halachos today. Yud Gimel halachos. Dinei habrachos liyeser hamacholim. Brachos besides Bori Pri'aitz and Bori Pri'adama. Aleph al davar shein gidul min haaretz. Something which do not grow from the ground. I'm sorry if you can't hear it so well. Just turn up the volume a little bit. I'm trying to speak as loud as I can. Al davar shein gidul min haaretz. Something which doesn't grow from the ground. Kigon basar behema chayav of meats, right? Or chicken, dagim, beitzim, chalav, gvina, or fish, eggs, milk, cheese. Upas she'ifsha, you have bread that became moldy. Now we're not talking about where it became completely moldy, where it's disgusting and no one would ever eat it. We're talking about where it started to get moldy. Well, most people would not consume it, but al yidei atchak, in a situation where you had no food, so then you would consume it. The tavshel shenishana surasa. Also, you have a pot of cooked food, let's say meat or something like that. Even though it started to spoil a little bit, right? But it's kalkel, and it became a little ruined. The novlos shem tmarim shebishlam musarfam hachom v'yavshu. So you have dates that were kept on the tree too long and they were burnt by the sun. Vala govai, grasshoppers. Vala melech, val mei melech, salt. If you eat salt, there's actually a bracha as a shachol. A melech, salt water. Vala mora. Mara refers to soup, right? Generally, most soups. It's a discussion what bracha you say on a soup, but a soup without any vegetables in it, you would make a shachol. Even if you have a chicken soup. We'll talk more about soups going forward. Val kameno pitrio, you say you have truffles or mushrooms. Val Korah Haga, the Ramah says Shuarach and Itosiv, the Ilan V'Cholshana. It's part of the bark of the tree. If you cut into the date trees on the bottom, you have a soft part. Shekorin Palmito. It's called Kura in the Gemara. Val Lulveg Gufanim, you take the vines of grapes. Val Shkedim Amsukim, sweet almonds. Sha'oklam Osam Kushem Rachim B'Klipean, where they're very young, they're small. When they're big, we know it's sweet almonds you make a bori priya on. But sweet almonds, when they're very small, they're very soft, and most people don't eat it like that. This is basically animal fodder, that different types of grass, cereal grains that are fed to animals. People don't eat it. That's the important point. Live raw squash. Squash is meant to be eaten cooked. Last year I made a video on Purim. I ate an eggplant that was raw. I think I made a bori pradan. I think the right bracha make a shachol. Val kimcha desari. Kimcha desari is basically barley flour. Val shechar tmarim. You see, made beer out of dates. Shechar sa'orim, or beer made out of barley. Val meisa orim shemizbashin l'chol. Let's say you took barley and you cooked it in hot water and you fed that to a sick person. Apparently, it helps a sick person. Val itzvei de davra she'enam nizraim. Grass in the meadow, in the field, that grew by itself. It's not something that you would grow to actually eat yourself. Val shevet shakorianitu. This is basically dill. Val kamon v'kaspor. These are types of spices. Kamon is cumin. The kaspor is coriander. They're meant to taste, to add spices, and not to eat it by themselves. Val let's say you mixed vinegar we're to learn by itself, you don't make a bracha on because it's painful to consume vinegar. It burns your mouth. But you mix it in water so it's not so caustic. Acharoy lishtos, you mix enough water that it's possible to drink. And all these things, you make shahakol either because they don't come from trees or because even if they come from trees or the ground, nonetheless they're eaten in a way that's that most people would not eat it. So therefore, it merits a bracha shahakol. You don't praise Hashem for peros haaretz or priya adama when it's not the normal way for people to eat it. Beis ala chometz lavado. You eat vinegar by itself. It burns your mouth. So therefore, anything which is negative, you're not going to give praise to Hashem. Gimel reicha chala. We're talking about a type of wine that started to turn into vinegar. If you leave wine long enough, it'll turn into vinegar. So it smells like vinegar. The time mechamra, however, it tastes like wine. Chamrahu, it goes after the taste. This is the psak halacha, mevarach alav bar priyagefen. As long as it tastes like wine, even though it smells like vinegar, you still make a bar priyagefen. Dalid kol shebnei adam noim l'shtoso necham mitzuso. If you had wine and it got to the point where it tastes enough like vinegar that no one wants to drink it. Now, it's not vinegar itself, because vinegar itself, it burns your mouth. It's not to the point where it's burning your mouth. It's to the point where it tastes like vinegar. Like we had the case where you mix water with vinegar, that it's possible to drink it, but it's not the normal way to drink it, so you make a shahakal. Hey, shimra yayin mavarachale and borpi agafen. Let's say you have the sediments at the bottom of a bottle of wine or grape juice, and you took it and you ate them, right? You baked borpi agafen because a little bit of the sediments, even though it's actual solids, but there's liquid mixed into it, and therefore you're making a bracha borpi agafen on the liquid, which is the wine or the grape juice. Let's say you have sediments and you put water on them. Let's say you put 3 ounces of water, and then you end up, it fills up your cup to 4, right? Because there was enough wine or grape juice in the sediments to make an extra ounce. Just like you had wine and you dilute wine, you still make borpi agafen. Here also you make borpi agafen. The matzah pakos, you put 3 ounces of water and you have less than 4 ounces. Let's say you have 3.5 ounces. Even though the sediments with the water taste like wine, it's not strong enough. The wine is batel in the water, and there you'll make shahakal. That's talking about, according to Rabbeinu Yonah, he says I was talking about the wines in the time of the Gemara, which were very strong. And they're not that strong. Even if you put in 3 ounces and you got 4 ounces, you wouldn't make borpi agafen because it doesn't taste like wine anymore. You would need a bigger proportion. Maybe you would have to put in 3 and find 5. It depends on every place how strong the sediments are, how strong the wine is. If it's a place where the wine is very strong, so then it's possible if you put in 3 and you get 4, that's good enough. Other places you have to put in 3 and get in a little more than 4. However, there's one measurement which is very clear, that a 6-to-1 ratio of water to grape juice or to wine, even if it's raw wine, undiluted wine, it's 6 parts water, that's automatically shahakal. It loses its status as wine. Yayin or grape juice is batel echad b'shisha. If it's less than that, it depends on the place. And for the record, most grape juice you have, even though some people are concerned if you have a grape juice, some people put water in their grape juice. I don't know why they do this. It's some Kabbalistic minhag to pour some water into your grape juice at the top of the grape juice or something like that, or water on the bottom of your cup, your goblet, a becher before you pour the grape juice in. That's not enough water to take it out of echad mishisha. You have to even kenem grape juice, which is diluted. It has to be a significant amount of water in order that you wouldn't be able to make borpi agafen. Vav temet she'osim mechartzanim sh'nos aleim mayim. Temet is a drink which you make from. It's basically wine where you put water on the grape peels, the peels of the grapes. We're talking about the sediments of the grapes. We're talking about the peels of the grapes, right? This happens a lot. A lot of wines. The reason that they're colored, the difference between white wine and a dark wine is basically how long they leave the wine on the peels, right? If you leave it a very little time, it's going to be white wine. A little longer, it's going to be rosé. A lot longer, it's going to be a dark wine. So you took water and you put it on the grape peels. There they actually put grape juice or whatever the juice from the grapes. But let's say you put water on the grape peels. Dinam kashmarim, it's the exact same thing as the sediments. Meaning, if you put in 3 and you find 4, you could assume it has enough grape juice in it to make a bracha. This is only talking about when the grapes themselves were first crushed by a machine. For some people, when they make wine, they trample it with their feet. A lot of times it's not such a good job when you do it with your feet as it is with a machine. So therefore, there's probably a little grape juice left in those peels. So even if you put 3 and you get 3 1/3, it would be enough to make borpi agafen. I would say 3 1/3, because 3 1/3 would be less than 6-to-1 ratio. But 3.5 would a little more than 3.5. 3.51 would be less than 6-to-1. right? Because you just trampled it with your feet, so the water, so there's still grape juice retained in the peels. What comes out, there's a lot of wine. Let's say you have grape peels, and besides the fact that you wanted to extract the grape juice or the wine in the peels, you also put figs on top of it in order to have a stronger taste. I guess fermented figs. Even though the peels are greater in number, greater in mass than the actual figs. So you have actual figs. You just have peels of grapes. And you make a shahakol because teinim, shechar teinim, you make beer out of fermented, right? You ferment figs, you make a shahakol. So therefore, since the ikar taste, the main taste over here is figs, that's the bracha you make. Zion. When you drink water, right? You drink water and you're very thirsty. Then you say shahakol. Say Barin Nefashos, like you'd say after anything, you say shahakol. If you ate a gazayas or a mashke, if you drank a revius. Let's say, literally, most people explain this to me, a piece of meat went down the wrong pipe, right? Went down your windpipe, and you drank water. You're merely doing it to dislodge the meat, and therefore, in that case, which is a very sad case, hopefully the person doesn't die. So in that case, you would make a bracha shahakol and not a Barin Nefashos because you're not doing it for the benefit. Now, this is different than other drinks, like you drink fruit punch, drink apple juice, something like that. Even to remove something from your throat, that you would make a bracha because you are nena. Mayim, you only consider getting hana from it if you're actually thirsty. We'll talk more about water. What about if you're eating water, drinking water during a meal? I have a lot of meals. I drink water with my lunch, with my dinner. What about in that case? I'm not drinking it because I'm thirsty, but I'm drinking it to accompany, right? So the food doesn't dry in my mouth. What is the correct? Do you make a bracha on the water or not? I will tell you my opinion. Ian Talina on Chet. Kol ha'cholina mashkin she'adam ochel v'shosel refuah. If it's food, it's normally considered a food or a drink, right? But you're consuming it now because it's beneficial for your health. Im tamam tov v'achech nenemehem. If it tastes good, and your palate would enjoy it, whatever bracha you normally make on it, you make at the beginning and end. However, if someone came over and pointed a gun at your head, if you don't eat this, it's talking about kosher food, right? Or drink this, I'm going to kill you. He didn't want to eat it. The point is that when I took it for a fuah, I wanted to eat it over here. I didn't do it for the benefit of the taste, but I wanted to eat it. So you make shahakol, or when you make the right bracha, you make the bracha if you actually benefit from it. But here, where the person forced you wouldn't have eaten it otherwise. He's forcing you to eat it, so there's no achila. When there's no achila, there's no bracha. You were forced to eat something. You have to eat a cheeseburger because otherwise you're going to die. I don't know, you love cheeseburgers so much. Then you would make a bracha before and after. You make the correct bracha before and after because you're allowed to eat it. Sakanas and fashos is not just the chuya where you're doing an isser, it's actually hutra, right? That's the way the Torah wants. It's a mitzvah to eat in such a case. And therefore you make a bracha, yud, the correct bracha for whatever the food is, yud. As opposed to dvash, which comes from dates, right? Which is questionable. Well, we haven't talked about what bracha you'd make on that. But bee honey, right? You make shahakol. It's machlokas the Mishnah Berurah brings by honey of dates. What bracha you make? Do you make ha'etz or do you make shahakol? Because maybe it's zeya ba'alma. It's like any liquid that comes out. We said the only liquid that you really make a bracha is the liquid that comes out of olives and grapes, but not necessarily te'enim. So it's machlokas by. Ask your rabbi what you do for it's not te'enim, tomorrow for date honey. However, you're eating with an apple on Rosh Hashanah, so the apple is the ikar and the dvash is the tafel. We'll learn in a second. So you only make a bracha on the apple. You don't have to worry about making a borei priya eitz on your dates. Yidalef chabushim o gindish o vradim. Chabushim are quinces. They're often used to make a jam or something like that, or vrodim, or roses actually. People took sharmine peirot v'asavim shemarakim midvash. They mix it with honey and they want to make some type of spread to put on your bread. A peirot v'asavim heimikar, the fruits and the grass or the flowers are ikar advash tafel. Even if they're ground up a lot. Therefore, as long as it's nicker, right, you can see parts of the actual fruit or the quince or a part of the rose. You'd say on the quince you make bar eitz because it's still recognizable as a quince, and on the rose you make bar dama. Al shal vradim bar dama, right? Atzavim, I guess, the grasses, and vradim are roses. You make bar dama. The reason you don't make bar eitz on vradim, even though they grow from roses grow from trees, from the branches of the trees, you make bar eitz, right? Technically, it's not considered ikar pri. Even the Shulchan Aruch, who said the seeds and the klipos, the peels, are considered ikar pri, he would agree that flowers are not considered ikar pri. That we learn by tzlaf, right? The flowers are not considered ikar pri. Hagav chomer kachas shein brian regilin bo el refua. Any type of jam or jelly that it's only meant to be given, it's a food, but it's only usually eaten by sick people. Mevarach alav shahakol. You make shahakol again. It's called a meichal al de'atchak. Again, if you have medicine, right? You have liquid Acamol or Nurofen or Motrin in America. There's no bracha to make on that. You don't make a bracha on medicines. We're talking about foods that are either normally eaten or they'd be eaten under duress. They would be eaten. Then you make a bracha because they're foods or regular foods or drinks. If it's just made as a concoction made for some medicine, you don't make any bracha. Yud is kolshu ikar of imot tefela. This is an important halacha. Anything which is ikar, you have two foods eaten together, or two foods mixed together. One is the main part of the dish, and one is tafel. One is subsidiary, right? It just comes to complement the other one. Doesn't matter what bracha the ikar is. It could be even shahakol, or it could be like fish, right? You have herring, you can put with your challah, herring and challah. It's an amazing thing. You take herring, mostly the challah to accompany the herring. You can take some piece of challah and herring. You don't have to wash on the bread, right? Unless maybe it's a kazayas, you have to wash on the bread. But you don't make a bracha on the bread. You don't make a motzi, you make shahakol. Like Boder says, anything. What's an example of tafel? Something you put in, like licorice. They put flour in it in order to keep it in the shape that it does. Or you want to put different ingredients in it to just give it a smell, or to color it, food coloring. That's tough. If you mix something in, you want it to give taste and it's harei ikar, right? It's ikar if it's the robe, right? If it's the robe, right? Whatever. If both things are there to give taste, so you go after what's the robe. Lefichach, unless we're talking about mazonos. Mazonos is, even if it's not the robe, mazonos is considered, if it's there for taste, mazonos is considered to be always the ikar. Lefichach, we'll learn more about this going forward. Lefichach, mine dvash, mamash on some, and also hem chelav chita, kidei ladabek, also hem mine masika. Let's say you have types of honey or candies made out of honey, and you put a little flour in them in order to give it a form, right? So, you're just giving it to give it form. It's not there for the taste. So the honey is the ikar, and you make a shahakol. Now, God, the Ramah says, "V'nira tahad the meirav kidei lisa is tam b'tarovis shu ikar hainu davka sheisham mamoshos min adavar no saying tam b'davar chashuv." Right? When you put anything, let's say you put flour in it to give it taste, it has to be recognizable as what it is. Or a fruit you put in. Aval b'samim, he says, "Shenosin l'tocham merkaka." That's how you grind up different types of spices and you put them in a jam. Aval b'shehem l'nisasdam ein mavarkan. Even though that's the main part over there, it could be the rove, but it's not recognizable as the b'samim anymore. B'samim usually you make a borei priyadama. Nonetheless, if it's not recognizable, that's the famous halacha we learned yesterday. That if it's not recognized, or 2 days ago, it's not recognizable. So therefore, you don't make a bracha. You only make a shahakol. The tailin b'miutan ava b'shenos in time. You don't have to give taste, and it's the main taste. If you can't recognize, you make shahakol. Therefore, even though b'samim abori priyadama, you make a bracha on the merkachas, which is the jam, which is the honey, which is shahakol. You'd give a kol davar shum b'sukah Yivarach Shahakal. Anytime you're not sure what bracha to make, the correct bracha to make is Shahakal. Again, if really it's b'diavad to make a Shahakal. However, if you don't have a way of finding out the bracha. Now, if you have a rabbi on speed dial and you can get through to him, and it's not difficult to get through to him, you probably should call him. But usually not, rabbis are not available 24/7. I don't think you even have to go to a book to look up the halacha over here, because the Torah was not matriach people to make themselves go crazy. If you don't know halacha, that's considered a suffix. It's considered a suffix, and you act the way the Torah tells you to act. If it's doraisa, you go l'chomer. You don't do whatever you're supposed to do. You're trying to do. If it's derabban, you go l'kul. You can make over here and there. Therefore, here also, here it's even better because you're not sure what bracha to make. Shakol patters everything. Shakol works for everything. So it's not even Savak Derabanan L'Kula. You're going wrong over here. First of all, it is Savak Derabanan L'Kula. Brachos are Derabanan. And second of all, it's not that really you're going L'Kula because B'di'evet, Shakol patters everything. So even if there's a little bit of a tircha for you to go across town to a rabbi or something like that, or to go look something up in a book, it can be very tedious to look it up in one of these brachos books. I don't believe you have to look it up. I believe you can rely on the fact of Safek, you make a bracha of Shahakol. That's the conclusion of today's share. Stay tuned for Ian to lean on, where I talk about making a bracha of shahakal on water. What's the correct bracha? Sometimes you make a bracha of shahakal, and sometimes, like the Gemara says, chanakte umtza, when a piece of meat gets stuck in your throat, you don't make a shahakal. But there's a wide category. There's a big category of things where you're not drinking water because you're quenching your thirst, and you're not drinking it just to dislodge some meat from your windpipe. You're drinking it, let's say, in a meal. I have water all the time. I drink water to accompany lunch and dinner because sweet drinks put on extra calories. I don't need the extra calories. So what about that? You're just doing it because your mouth is going to be dry, not to drink anything when you're eating. It's lishros ha'okal. Not only does it help you, the food go down your throat, your esophagus, it also helps it digest easier in your stomach. So what if that? Do you make a bracha on shahakal, which is a normal case of drinking water? What about those cases? Do you make a bracha of shahakal on water? We'll deal with that. Ian to lean on coming up next.